Up,
We ready to go?
beard being scratched,
All
play
right, let's
on
get this done.
TV,
Let's get this done.
and we're going live.
Three, two, one.
We're live. Third time,
Finally,
third time lucky. Let's see if this
third time lucky.
holds. First time having
Indeed.
technical difficulties on the podcast. Welcome to Aussies taking over the NBA on the eve of the World Cup.
Yo,
Yeah,
very, very exciting.
I know
Uh,
it's going to be a huge campaign, man. It's going to be very exciting. I'm nervous, scared, worried. I just want to get it over with. It's a
it's,
weird time
it's,
for it. Monday,
it's,
Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday.
yeah, it's weird game times. Obviously, this is all going to be done and dusted in 2 weeks, this tournament,
Mm,
because then we get ready for our local lead in the NBA, lead into the NBA. But hasn't been the most ideal setup for the Aussies, would you say? A little bit of in and outs, a little bit of mixed performances.
yeah,
Big loss in Jonah Bolden leaving a little bit of a gap in the power forward backup five spot.
mm.
You know,
That's yeah, massive. We'll talk. We should start on that because it's NBA. That's huge, man. Like massive.
that was a safety harness issue. I think that
Yeah.
was player management. Yeah, definitely. I think that first game where he got 0 minutes and the second game where he's getting the same minutes as Jock Landau, he's trying to protect his NBA brand. If you're going to bring an NBA guy into the team who plays regular NBA minutes for Philly, you're going to have to use him. And why not? The guy can stretch the floor and shoot the three ball like lights out.
Mm,
So why would you go over that? I think that in that first game where there was no Baines, it was the perfect time to get Jonah Bolden in that five spot and used as a stretch five. Um, get him used to the FIBA rules, get him used to the system, and it worked because game two he was amazing. Game one Australia was flaming bags of trash,
it was pretty bad, man.
led by
Worryingly bad. Like that first game, we
Warren.
took that L. I'm just like, ooh, like even the NBL players coming out and looking absolute trash as well.
Very rusty, man. They look
Yeah.
like, it's funny because you see all these videos on YouTube and Facebook of Ben Simmons and Devin Booker working out. The only working out Joe Ingles did, I think, was, working out his bloody Xbox because he looked about as unfit as anyone I've ever seen.
It sucks though because it's a bad reference point for him too because he always kind of looks like that. He's so unassuming and just like your normal kind of local dude. Like really, like not even that's not even being harsh, man. You watch him play for
No,
the Jazz, and he's like a very unassuming character. Like he's not like his step backs. If you got someone who knew basketball and said, "Oh, that's Joe Ingles' step back," like, do you like that? They'd be looking at it just going, what? That's awful. Like he's so slow, and you're just like, but still, it's mad watching him hit step backs.
it's
And
funny.
when it doesn't come off, it just looks ordinary, man. And
It
he didn't have the
does.
best shooting night in that first
These
game
are the
against Canada. Delhi,
because
0 of 9,
flaming hot bags of garbage.
just bags of doo doo, man. It was not good. Patty Mills, obviously, in that first game, he kind of bailed us out a little bit, made it a bit more respectable. But without Baines there, you would expect Jonah Bolden to be playing 25 minutes, maybe even
Yep.
30 minutes out of the 40.
Yep.
I can understand, he need. Lamana safety harness needs to get everyone game time. All right, so
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking at it like, dude, Jonah, like, come on, man. Like, after one game, you got a bit upset, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, no, fair enough, man. He's got an NBA career to protect. It sucks, man. It's just it's a terrible situation for the team, man. Like leaving the team or having to leave the team in this kind of situation in a crucial spot. Like if it was a shooting guard, you go, yeah, okay, fair enough. Or if it was, another small forward, you go, okay, we got heaps of small forwards. But that
Yep.
4-5 who can play versatile minutes, pass as well as you. Like he had a couple of really good dimes in game two. We can't
Hit the
replace
three
that
ball.
player right
Yeah,
now,
you
man.
can't. Yeah, no, you can't replace that player.
And
There is.
Garbage Scoop Barlow came in, man. Far out, like,
Dude's about 40 in the shade.
and then who? Like, yeah, we're looking at our roster, just going, you know what? Who should have gone into that spot? And we're like, there's no one. It's all gambles, dice rolls from
Yeah,
there.
it is. It's dice rolls at best, and they're going to have to rely on no one getting injured. because if one of them gets injured, you're relying on Nick Kay to put in 20, 25 minutes a game. And you look, he played well, don't get me wrong, but he's not a scoring option. And when you look at our scoring depth, it's Paddy Mills featuring a little bit of Bogut and Baines. That's scary. That is scary because if they're not on, then the game's over.
See, I kind of like Paddy as the option. Like, part of me is just just gun it, Paddy. I want to see this.
Yeah, like, sure, Paddy should be taking 25 shots a game. There's in our team, in that lineup, there is no one that can create off the dribble. No one.
Nobody else. Even Golding, like we said on the King's Dime, shout out to On the King's Dime if you're a Sydney Kings fan, that we've seen him create shots in the NBL where you're like, all right, Goulding, pick up the slack, create your own shot. And he just didn't want to do it in that first game. And I was just like, then why are you out there? Like, nobody's going to create shots for you because, Delhi's not playing well. Joe Ingles is mainly a pick and roll creator. He's not like an off the dribble creator who'll create shots for people. Like, he's more down, like getting to the rim downhill, finding your big man. Like, that's where Golding's got to step up. And Nick Kay came out. Some of these NBL guys that came out straight away, you just thought, I wouldn't have them in this team. But we're in a position where it's like you've got to have them in the team. We've got probably 7 or 8 NBA stars, and then you add kind of Ben Simmons and those kinds of guys who aren't at this tournament, like Udeng Adele, Thon Maker.
Yeah. Well, I think they chose Mitch Creek over Deng Adele, which is probably a good choice. I think legit? That's legit. Yeah. So they had
fair enough.
I think Adele needs to work on his game. He was in camp. He was part of the original pick, and it's good to see him in camp. I think he needs another big year. He's obviously been signed by the Brooklyn Nets. Another big year to develop his game, develop it, and he'll be there ready for the Olympics next year. And we'll have all our stars back. We'll have Brokoff back, who is another guy that can create off the dribble and facilitate and shoot the three ball really well. Obviously, Bolden, we need to get Bolden back into the roster, Thon back into the roster. If we got a really strong 4-5 spot with those two guys coming back next year, but for this World Cup, we got to rely on 20 minutes a game on Nick Kay. Landau's been fantastic. We really just are missing the shot creator, and that's Paddy. And Paddy is also fantastic off the ball, whereas Golding's not a great mover off the ball. He gets to his spot and he can knock it down. He's a knockdown shooter, but in high functioning facilitative teams, like you've got although the USA did get beat, we'll get to that.
Hey, don't spoil it.
They will come out stronger from Pop and Kerr running off the ball movements. It can't be all ISO. They have to run a higher level game, and they will run a higher level game. It's just a question of how does Australia cope with that, knowing that we really, when Paddy's off the floor, there's no ball movement.
No.
There's no
individual shot creation either. No. Like Delhi. All right, he knocked down a couple of shots in game 2. He's a guy where if he has an open shot, you're not sitting there wanting him to take the open shot. You're not going, yep, give it to Delhi, he's wide open. You're kind of just like, just take it, man. Like, you might hit it. Sweet, okay, you hit it. Or, okay, you didn't hit it, but it's Delhi, Paddy Mills seems to be the only kind of guy in that team that's you feel comfortable with. You like, okay, I'm happy with him taking 13 threes a game. I think he was 13 in the first game and then like 16 or 14 or something in the second game, where you're like, okay, yeah, sweet, I want that in my offense. But the rest of the team doesn't, like, a lot of their scoring options, you're just kind of like, if we have to, like, Bogut, if you have to around the rim. Who else have we got going down that roster? Like
Baines, if you have to around the rim. Kay, if you have to around the rim.
If you have to,
there's not a lot of good. There's no one with good post moves in that team.
Nah, and then Landau. We should talk about Landau because we watched him in the summer league, man, and he looked good in summer league and even last year's summer league.
Probably the strongest power forward or / center in transition. I'd have to think.
Just showed some great skill, like fantastic skill. Like but he's just got no post moves, and it's obvious. If you watch him especially up against the USA, like you watch him and he gets in the post. And there's no, I have this move. Like, it's not even a case of, like, you watch some of these US and Canada forwards where, that's Brissett. He's going to one step off the left, spin, and try it. Whereas Landau, you watch him, he backs down once, twice, and you're just like, I don't know where you're going with this, Jock, but you may as well just toss it out right now because your shot's going to be bad. You don't have a set move to go to, like turn inside. And then sometimes with some players, like with Baines around the rim, you're just like, just try it. You're 6'11", 250, just try it, mate. Like, but with Landau, nothing's really going to happen around the basket. But in transition, man, some of those finishes were just fantastic. Yeah. And
Australia's a fast-moving team. They're not a set-up team. This is the good thing about Mills and Delhi is Delhi has fantastic ball security and good court vision to get the ball away early. He doesn't hold on to it, and you see that in a lot of you saw it in the first two games is that the ball movement was quite good. Where they got caught is in the set zone, where once the zone's set, once the defense is set, they've got not a lot of options to go to. You've kind of got a Joe Ingles pick and roll, Joe Ingles like little lefty scoop, bit of Baines back down, a bit of Bogut back down with Bogut's kind of push hook. That's pretty much it. Or you've got Paddy running off the ball, running around screens. We should say that Bogut probably is the best FIBA illegal get away with screen setter in the world.
They're not really illegal, so to speak.
Well, just stick your ass out just a little bit, time it right, and then the defender gets caught up and, at least gets an open shot in. That's if Delhi's going to do anything and change his shot, he needs to learn how to shoot around the curl because his shot mechanic is terrible.
It was awful to begin with. Like he was a very over the head shooter. Now he's kind of shooting it out in front. And it doesn't look right still, man. Like, what is he, 31 or 32 or in his late 20s?
I think it's late 20s, early 30s, yeah.
Like, that's not a great time. Like, ambitious to change your shot at this stage of your career, but it's not the best time to be changing your jump shot. But he's an established guy in this team, and you've just got to go with that and say, yeah, man, if you're changing your jump shot, good. But still, to me, it didn't look good. Like, it didn't look right.
No, it didn't look right.
Facilitatively, he played quite well.
Yes.
I agree.
But Joe Ingles also, when Joe Ingles was on the floor, his facilitation and he's 6'8", he can see a lot more than Delhi, who's 6'3", and his ability to get passes above, I suppose, players' arms that Delhi can't is sometimes when it's either has to be Joe on the floor or Delhi on the floor. Because I think Joe Ingles as a spot-up shooter may not be the best option in this tournament.
But then who else are you going to? If
you literally have to. You've got to hope that Patty Mills drops 30 points a night. That's really what it is.
I'm ready for that. I want that.
I'm ready for it. I don't think you can do it. But it's got to be done consistently. And we'll get to the USA games because this was the big spectacle. 51,000 people first game.
Mm-hmm.
Australia kept up with him for the first half. We looked like we were playing really well. And the USA obviously game one. Yeah. The USA obviously got away in the second half with some really good ISO shooting. Kyle Kuzma played very well. Kemba Walker also good as always. Mitchell is still a little bit. I don't think he plays FIBA very well because he still dribbles into traffic and tries to shoot stupid shots, and that doesn't work against paint campers. And you can camp as long as you want in the paint defensively in FIBA. So it doesn't. He's not going to be able as effective, I think, as the NBA, where it's that one-on-one ISO and you can use his athleticism to get around defenders. Whereas you put Baines or Bogut or even Landau smack bang in the defender's circle, it's pretty hard to finish around them.
But I'd take my chances on Landau though.
Yeah,
like Landau's the guy you want. You're just like, okay, I don't really want Bogut. I don't want Baines. I'll take Landau. Give me Landau, but. Australia did a really good job of kind of hiding that. Like when Bogut was on the floor, obviously he didn't play in game 2 of the Canada game. He played both of the USA games though, didn't he? From memory?
He did, yes.
Yeah. When he's on the floor, you can see that, there's scheme defense. It's a similar like Joe Ingles. Like you can see there's the type of offense he runs, and it's very devastating. Well, not devastating, but it's very, very like it gets guys good shots. Whereas, when Baines is on the floor, like it's just totally different. Like it's all about bodies. Like didn't he foul out of the first USA game?
He did, yes.
Yeah, and then like it's hard for Australia to build certain types of offense when one guy does this well and that well, and then if you take these guys out, then you've got to plug something totally different into it, and then you bring in these two guys, and that's completely different again. And whereas this Canada and USA team seem to have guys that just come in, play certain types of defense, play certain types of offense, and knock down shots. Like the USA felt like every time they got mid range, it was just knocking down, bang, thanks. Mitchell especially would just step in. Kuzma was knocking it down. Australia, I don't feel like has got that option where it's like, you know who I want to I just want a guy to step in off a screen and just knock down a shot. Like all of them,
we have no ISO game, and when you need a bucket, when you need to stop the momentum, that's what you need. You need that ISO player. We've got one, Paddy Mills, and he really is not a mid-range player. He's a three. He's a stretch three player, and that's really all we have. We don't have a guy that can just sit in the mid-range and knock down a shot. Maybe Goulding, or whatever you want to call him.
He's probably the next best thing, really.
Probably the next best thing. Certainly not Sobey. Certainly not Kay.
Oh, he was just like fumbling the ball as well against the USA, like just dropping the ball.
Sobey's ball security is not the greatest, and especially in a high pressure situation like this, you need guys that are. Delhi's gone to the championship game. He's played in the highest pressure situation. If there's one thing you can say about Delhi, his ball security is better than everyone's in that team. You're not getting the ball off Delhi. He's not going to let you get that ball, and he's going to be a pest, and he's going to be defensively superior to most guards of the same size as him, and be able to switch on guys that are slightly bigger, which is a good thing. But we're playing some tough games against Canada. But we'll go back to game one, USA. Halftime down by a point, and then third quarter they had a 30-point quarter, we had a 16-point quarter, and it was pretty much game over. And out came the trash minutes halfway through the fourth quarter, where we had just an NBL lineup on the court, getting absolutely pummeled. So that's
a big drop off. Like watching that, it's a scary drop off to that NBL. Like you can't say anything about those NBL guys. Like you can't have a go at them. You just like. It's great that they're there, but you look at it and that's a big drop off, man.
Probably I think you've got two levels of NBL in the team. You've got Golding, who's probably a slight step down. Kay is probably a little bit even under that. And then you've got a cliff to get to Sobey. Creek has not shown his versatility in this tournament. We might see some more. Are we
sure? Like I've been thinking, man, are we sure he's good?
He played well in the G League, man. Like he's got some good skills. It's just... It seems like that there's a certain point where he needs to play at, and I don't think that's the two small forward position. Seems like he's got to play as an undersized power forward.
Because we were so high on him. Like we were so high on him through the last year, even sort of the back end of the year before. Like we were super high on him having an NBA career, and then now like you're kind of watching him for the Boomers, just sort of going, do something, man, do something. And he looks so passive. I don't know what it is, man. Like and I think his personality and his basketballing sort of personality is that of what do you need fixed, guys? What do you need me to do here? Not like I'm just going to take the ball and score type of guy. Like Bolden, I felt like always in those two Canada games, to go back a little bit, always would just take the ball and make something happen. Yeah. Just like, give me the ball. I'm going to just do something. I don't know what it's going to be. I'm going to do it. Whereas Creek's a little bit like, he just looks like, you need some nuts tightened over here. Like, it's all good. Oh, you need me to just, saw a piece of wood over here. Like, he's not a guy where you just like creates things and makes things happen. I don't know if he was getting enough minutes. Like, he didn't get any minutes in that first Canada game. I just don't know I just don't know what it is, man. I want to see him come out and just absolutely fire in this tournament.
Yeah.
Before I'm back up on him again.
Yeah, I think it was important to play these games, and I think it was important to win, but I don't know how it really reflects on what Australia is going to do in these tournaments, because Australia always seems to do well.
Yeah.
And it's actually important. This tournament, if we don't make the top 10, we don't automatically qualify for the Olympics.
Because this is in this tournament.
This is a qualification tournament for the Olympics. So even if we get knocked out in the group stages, I think there's another game they play to seed in the top 10 or the quarterfinals. Yeah, no, there's a seed game. You can still qualify, but you got to play more games. And then we're relying on NBL talent to qualify us for the Olympics.
That's embarrassing, man, if we don't make the Olympics.
So, I think we will. I think that.
Oh, well, the hope is, yeah, definitely. Like, I'm not sitting here going, oh, man, we're going to be terrible. Oh, this is gonna be... I'm sitting there after seeing these 4 games. Like even the win, like okay, let's start talking about that win because it was a fantastic win. Like we were both sitting there just like, how good is this? Like, but that lasted 10 minutes. Like the high lasted 10 minutes. You saw their interviews where they were just like, yeah, we won, but we want to win in the World Cup. And then you kind of like back to the like, all right, I want to see this team really do well again. Like I didn't see enough in both of those games, even the win where you're just like, it's all coming together great here, boys. We're on a roll. We're doing, and then they lost that other preseason game too. It's just like, it's a bit of a worry, man. I'm just.
They only scored 64 points in the game against Germany, which were a much tighter defensive team than the USA.
Schroeder man. Schroeder's
good.
Shit.
Daniel Tice, Tice, not bad, not a scrub. Some good Euro ball players. The 64 is a typical game where Paddy doesn't get off the ground. That's a typical. Paddy hasn't scored well that game. First game against Canada, Paddy hasn't scored well that game. Game win against USA, Paddy scores the last 13 points. That's the issue. It's if Paddy's going to have a tournament, and this is where the Ben Simmons factor would have changed everything, because it would have been, all right, we've got probably the best point forward in the world now outside of LeBron James. We've got someone to take away from Paddy, but now he's gone. Paddy's got to be there scoring 30 points a night.
So if we look at where Ben Simmons, obviously, if Ben Simmons plays, that means Sobey's not there, right? That's one thing where he slots at the top, Sobey comes out the bottom. If Thon Maker's there, who's your guy that falls out? Maybe Nick Kay falls out of that.
Nick Kay, yeah.
If Dengadil plays and Brokoff plays, then maybe
Brokoff would probably slink out. It'd have to be at the one spot. You could play Brokoff at almost a two spot, an oversized two guard, as a backup to Paddy, as a shooter. Golding, small forward. One spot, Delhi and Simmons. You could have like a 4-man rotation, 5-man rotation at the 4 and 5. Yeah. You could play Landau as an oversized small forward. Big team on the floor as Brokoff as a 6'8" shooting guard, 6'10" point, 6'11" small forward, 6'10" forward, power forward, 7-foot center. Just a ridiculously oversized team, which is good for FIBA rules, I think.
Really, the only guy we're missing is that backup for Bogut. If all of the other NBA guys play, like if your Simmons, Brokoff,
you'd use Jonah in that spot. I think you'd use Jonah, Baines, or even Baines. Like we don't know who's going to fill that 4th spot next year, or if you take 5 with you, because your big guys are most likely to get injured. Let's be real. Obviously, there was a scare in that game against Germany where Bogut went down with an ankle sprain.
Yeah, dude, scary, man.
Scary for Sydney Kings as well.
I know, dude. I don't care about Australia. I'm like, please just don't come back injured, man. Not that team really is. Like, I feel like this season that team doesn't have to be as reliant as it was last season on him. But anyway, yeah.
That's another thing.
The real kind of the worry is, like, let's talk about Lamanis for a sec. Like, are we like 100% sure he's a good coach and like we're that keen on him too?
I think that he plays a very high IQ form of basketball that has its massive drawbacks. He seems to really get caught in the mid-range, good on the perimeter, good in the block, and then everyone can get into the mid-range for floaters and jump shots. And there's nothing that his defensive rotation can do for that. So it's kind of like, okay, he's setting a very high 3-2 or 2-3 zone, very high structure, but if anyone gets inside, it's kind of like, yeah, you have to take the mid-range. That's the low percentage option. Whereas if you take a coach like Pop, he'll move to a more 4-1 zone where it's a lot of ISO, guy sinks back, comes out. He knows there's not a lot of stretch bigs out there that can shoot the 3 ball. Probably Serbia is one of the 2 that can. Boban and Jokic at center. That's a pretty devastating combination. Pretty good combo. They're probably the only team that you would have to rely on a perimeter 5. Whereas most of the other teams, if Bogut's on the floor, you literally can just sag off.
Mm.
It's just guys doing their homework, and I think Lamanis has a lot of flaws in the defense and too much complexity in the offense. That's
Yeah.
my take on it.
Mm.
If
It's
if you're playing a week in week out team, like you look at the Brisbane Bullets and I'll take this as his regular coaching job. Absolute trash bags. Trash bags. They were either on and off. They were shooting 35, 43 points a game, or they were just getting absolutely trounced. And that was, guys that stick together week in, week out, and they know how to run an offense and a defense. It's a feast or famine type of play style. Whereas I think in the Australian team, you need to use screening options a lot more to get round into the mid-range and floaters, a lot of setting double screens. I did see a lot of double screens for Paddy to get an open shot, but it's almost a double screen for a pick and roll is needed to get Joe Ingles facilitating into a pick and roll.
And
I don't know.
admittedly, some of the levels that Paddy was playing through, like off ball through snaking through screens, coming back around screens, like rescreening, up screens, down screens, around to the other side. Like some of that shit went like 9 times deep. Like it was almost like they were working it out on the fly on the court, where it's less about coaching execution and more just about these guys play like the USA team. You can tell the coach can trust each individual and just go, yeah, they'll just work it out. If they get into trouble, they just work it out. And then usually that resulted in a bucket for the USA team. And then it seems like Paddy was the only one who could get that to happen. The amount of he just slaying them in, out, back, around, here, there. Oh, there's Paddy. Yep, sweet. At the end of that win, like we'll talk about him, how good he was at the end of that, fucking just knocking down everything, man. And
last 13 points.
If we're relying on that, it's a worry, but we shouldn't have to really worry about like relying on that. You know what I mean? Like we shouldn't have to be sitting here going, "Oh fuck, I hope Paddy goes off at the end of this game, man." Like you know what I mean? Like there should be other scoring options.
Yes, especially in key moments where it doesn't seem like there is, and hasn't been for a while.
I think like Lamanis does execute like. It's hard to because if you look at Nurse in Canada, like straight away you could see like, oh fuck, Nurse is coaching these guys like quite well. They're doing like certain things all the time, and like, oh look, they got open in the lane, three buckets in a row, 3 trips down. They pretty much did the same thing in a row. Like there's signs of good coaching. I'm not 100% like, yeah, cool, man. But and then this is off court stuff with like Ben Simmons and Jonah Bolder, and you're just like, dude, come on, man.
I think a lot of that was really around how I suppose he thinks that the team is bigger than the individual, and sometimes when you have NBA players, the player is bigger than the team. In some respects, I think he needed to play Bolden 25 minutes each game to get the most out of him. I think his game has stepped up. He's working a lot. Stretch 5, can shoot the 3 ball. I've seen him go absolutely off against Minnesota, and yeah, that needed to be there, and obviously it's not. So we will see what happens. We'll be coming back for a reaction pod tomorrow night after the game.
Yeah, sick.
So stay tuned for that, and we'll be back with more in-depth analysis.
Yeah, man.
Of that game.
So what do we got? Canada tomorrow, then Senegal, then Uruguay. Who are we playing in the third game?
Senegal and Lithuania. On Thursday.
Ooh, tough. Lithuania, a decent team. Anyway, yeah, we'll come back with some more stuff. Remember to like, share, subscribe, do everything. I'll throw this one up on audio format as well after this. Finally, we got it out after the third one.
Oh, tough.
Input number 2 strikes again.
Damn.
All right, take
guys.
it easy, everyone. Have a good night.
Peace out.
Go Boomers tomorrow. Yeah.